we're both reading your books and enjoying it. And one thing that struck us, you being one of the biggest PTs in the world now, is that you yourself said you were kind of a chubby child. We're wondering, how did that affect you? And you had a very interesting story about going to the lunch lady in your school canteen as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I was at school, by no means I wasn't like a concern for health, but I was shit at football. Like, I wanted to play a good level of football, and like everyone was just beating me. I'd like, oh, go get the ball, and someone just beat me to it. And then after about 2 years, I was like, oh, I'm a bit fat. And I go home, and my mum, God bless her soul, loves me. So every time, you know, if I didn't finish food on my plate, oh, what's wrong? What's up? Why haven't finished the food? It was like coming from a very lovingly place. But then when I went to the same woman with how to lose weight, she had no idea. So I'd go to school, canteen ladies. I was like, oh, what one of these foods is fattening? Looking back now, it was burgers, cheeseburgers, chips, lasagna, like, you know, and sitting down all day. And when I went to secondary school, it was a can of Coke first thing. And every time I got kicked out of class, I would just pretend I went to the headmaster's office but go to the sweet shop. And I'd come back and I'd be dealing candy at school. Remember those sherbet straws? Yeah. I'd be coming back with them. You know, I'd be buying them 50p and selling them for £1. You know, make sure none of the teachers could see. And I'd always be tucking into my own stash. And I just had no real idea of, you know, why it was. And even if you'd asked me at 18, I couldn't have given you a definitive answer. You know, if someone said, oh, how did you lose weight? I would have said something like, oh, I've got to eat better. I've got to run more. I've got to get my heart rate up. I've got to skip breakfast. And I kind of developed a bit of a chip on my shoulder. I was like, why has no one told me this? Why has no one popped up on my Instagram feed and gone, oi, this is how it works. This is what you should be doing. Stop being an idiot. So I kind of had to become the person who I needed when I was younger.
Yeah. And like, at what age, like you said there, you were conscious of like, oh, I've got fat. Like I was a very big chubby child and still am a bit chubby. But like, at what age did you realise, right, I want to get in shape. I want to get the perfect body as people think like the perfect body?
I think I started playing rugby when I was 14, and 16 was about the age you can go to a gym. So I remember I was going to a gym and I was getting a lift with my neighbour's dad. Like I was like, oh, can you give me a lift to the gym? I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I felt better being there. Yeah. And I think that I was very fortunate to be one of the people going to the gym to get stronger for a sport. Because when you're a rugby player, you're like, oh, I'll lift some weights. If I can bench press this, then I'll be able to push people off a ruck or whatever it is. And I'm very glad almost that I didn't get suckered into purely going to exercise to look better, which I think is what most people that don't play sport get into. And it was just an ongoing journey, on and on and on. I was like, oh, I need BCAAs, and then I don't need them. Oh, I need creatine. I'm not even keeping an eye on my protein. And then it was like, how many reps should I be doing? You know, like, and again, the resources for this was blogs like T Nation and, you know, all of these stupid things on the internet, all contradicting itself. And there's so much bro science out there. And it's almost like the biggest dude in the room. Whoever's willing to inject the most testosterone, he knows what he's doing. It was a bit of a minefield. And I came probably in the last 10 years, I discovered a lot of evidence-based kind of practitioners in the nutrition field. And there's two things evidence-based people are. One, they don't really look the part that much because they're like an introvert nerd. And two, they're incredibly fucking boring. And I saw a gap in the market. I was like, do you know what? If I can absorb all the information of these boring people who, you know, aren't very charismatic, I'm never going to be in better shape than the good guys. I'm never going to be smarter than the brainy guys. But if I can bring a bit of banter, crass, you know, and deliver something, because ultimately people are on social media because they're bored or they're having a shit at work. Yeah. And I was like, if I can get in and out, like, I used to sell gas and electric to people door to door. This is way easier, you know, teaching someone like how fat loss occurs while they're taking a shit at work, much easier.
But like that is one of the big things on Instagram or on social media in general, or the fucking internet for that matter, is like fad diets. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you need to be intermittent fasting, and then the next day something pops up and it's like, no, don't intermittent fasting. Like, you know, just take this stuff and you'll shit your insides out, and then, you know, we'll all have six packs. Like your thoughts on the fad diet thing is brilliant, because we've seen it on Instagram and we've read it in the books. Like, can you elaborate on that a bit for us? Like, this whole fad dieting, does it work? Like, obviously fad diets don't.
I always love breaking it down. Analogies for me, when I don't understand things, I put them into analogies in my head. So I've become an analogy person. And my favorite one was about people's dogs. Like, if I go around my nan's house and a dog's fat, I don't go, Nan, that dog's diet's probably a bit too alkaline. Or, is he eating before 1 p.m. now? He's obviously not being taken for walks, and you're feeding him for no fucking reason. And people go, what do you do? You know what to do. He needs to go for more walks. And although he might be crying a little bit, you've got to take a meal away until he's no longer fat, and then he can be a happy dog again because you can feed him 3 square meals. And it's just a stage of neglect from either end, and I am oversimplifying something that is more complex, but ultimately people are then suddenly looking at Boombod in their hand going, why am I drinking this pink bollocks? Then really I should be, getting off the bus stop a couple of stops earlier, taking the hill, sticking to a step count, and maybe tracking my calories Monday to Friday.
Like you say, a calorie deficit, is that oversimplifying a bit? Because, or do you think it's just that people don't want to go through the pain barrier?
Ultimately it is, and people will refute it. They'll go, not all calories are born equal. And I say to them, no one's giving birth to a fucking calorie, mate. It's a unit of energy, like a kilometer, 2 kilometers aren't born equal, but one could be uphill, one could be downhill. It doesn't change what a kilometer is. And, people will always look to refute and have their own bias and interpret any data that confirms what they're saying. But ultimately, people have an energy problem. It's an energy in versus energy out. And, you could have a thyroid problem. You could be going through menopause. You could have, certain complications with your health. But ultimately, it doesn't play outside the realm of thermodynamics. So it is one of those things where people spend so much and waste so much energy trying to refute it when really they just need to come to terms with the fact that unless they're harnessing power from the sun, they're consuming too many calories for the amount they move. They could be photosynthesizing sunlight. They could be a fucking X-Men. I very much doubt it.
Okay. Can we ask you yourself? You said that at one time after you had been backpacking, you came home and trained really hard, but that you went almost too far. You had, as you said yourself, a bit of an obsession trying to get the perfect body, and you ended up taking steroids.
Yeah, I became a fucking bellend.
What's the crack like?
So Ben, one of my housemates I live with now, he had a stern word with me once, and he goes, Smiths, you only got in shape so you could get with hotter birds, and now you don't even go out. He was like, what's happened to you? And it was one of those things. I started taking supplements, started taking it real serious, and it was just when I became a personal trainer. So when I became a personal trainer, I'm on Instagram. I'm like, wow, these guys are so big. No wonder they're commanding the room with gravitas. How am I gonna do this? And at first, you're very naive to think that fitness people are just so smart. But they're not. They're just taking testosterone. And a few people come through the cracks like, I haven't taken it. And I'm like, yeah, I can fucking tell. But the majority, and I took it. And you make one phone call to the one guy on your Facebook who's massive. Yeah, can I get some gear? Yeah, sweet, cool. How much is it? It's not a lot. It's like maybe £100 for 12 weeks. Jesus. And that's less than my supplements cost. But then he was, thank God for the guy I had, he was very informative about all of the things I would have to take afterwards. So post-psychotherapy. So I felt like I was in good hands. Then he convinced me to inject, which was interesting. So I was living at home with my parents. So I'm hiding syringes from my parents at 24. And I'm like, son, you're getting a bit big. I'm like, yeah, creatine. You know how it is.
Eating spuds.
It was quite funny though, because I got on my clients very well on the gym floor. So I told my clients I was going on steroids. I said, look, I want to get bigger. I want to perform better. And they were quite curious. They didn't judge me for it. They weren't like, you're a bad person. When I was training in the gym, I started wearing baggier stuff because it was so apparent. Like, it was so obvious. Even people I'd never spoken to before would be like, you're on gear. And if I'm honest, it was fucking amazing. I felt like a dog with two dicks. Like, I was horny, I was sleeping well, I was eating well, my physique was changing. But then you come to the end of it and you can't stay on it forever because one, your nuts shrink. Your testicles no longer have to produce testosterone, so they become like grapes.
I was just about to ask you, like, you're talking about a dog with two dicks. How was your dick, like, after injecting the stuff?
That's amazing. That's the thing. You have a lot of sex when you're on testosterone because you are the manliest man you've ever been. You've got 8 to 12 times the amount of testosterone you usually have. So like your girlfriend,
like Tarzan.
Like, Jesus, yeah, exactly. But because your nuts are no longer producing testosterone, they become smaller. They atrophy. And about week 8, I was getting worried because when I was having sex with my girlfriend, my nuts were disappearing inside me. And I was like, oh, and having to bit too much information for your listeners, but
They love this shit.
But then when you get to the 12 weeks, you're like, right, I've got to stop, because if I don't stop, chances are if I go into too far of atrophy, my nuts won't go back into cycle. So then I was like, right, what do I take? He's like, I take the breast cancer drugs. Then you're going to take the Pregnol, which they give to boys when their balls don't drop. Now you're going to, if your nipples get sensitive, take a Rimidex to stop you developing breast tissue. And I was like, fucking hell. And when I came off, no matter how hard I trained, no matter how hard I turned to the gym, no matter how well I ate, I lost size, I lost strength. And there's a bit of a low mood as well, where your testosterone is now kind of playing catch up. And during that period, I was like, I'm never going to do this again. 3 months later, I'm on the phone. Hey, mate, can I get some more? And this time I was like, right, I'm going to hit it harder. I'm going to be more devoted. And you get in kind of a bit of a cycle with it. And there was probably a few times where I was taking another substance called clenbuterol, which is a fat stripper. And I'm injecting my butt. And clenbuterol is giving me a cramp in my hand to the point my hand is like collapsed, like the strong hand out of Scary Movie. I was like, fuck. My mum's asking me like something about like the laundry. I'm like, no, mum, don't come in. My hand's like this. I've got a needle sticking out my butt, and I'm trying to open my hand so I can finish injecting the test. And I thought, James, what are you doing to yourself? Jesus. And after that, I decided, right, I'm going to knock it on the head. And fortunately enough, I actually went to a CrossFit workout, and I ripped CrossFit. I was like, you bunch of idiots. And I went to the session, and I loved it. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And so I was like, I'll go back. And 2 weeks, 3 weeks went by. And I realized that training for performance was giving me so much more pleasure than just going to the gym to look better. And I realized going to the gym and knowing there's a guy with the same level of fitness, he's a rugby player, he's the same age, and we got a 1 mile run for time. I was like, I'm going to fucking beat this guy. And doing that gave me more of a buzz than, being the biggest guy in the room, in a room full of, largely insecure people. And I was very fortunate to go through that maturity process. And then I came out the other side looking at bodybuilders like, I've been there. And it kind of gave me like an insight to what people are thinking, what they wanted. And I think it made me a better PT, because a lot of guys would come in and they'd be like, I want a six pack. And I'd be like, tell me about your life. They're like, I work in the corporate world. I get a bit boozed a few times a week. I've got my kids at the weekend. And I'd sit back with them. I go, do you know what, mate? Like, let's get you strong. Let's get you deadlifting some good weight. Let's get you doing sets of 8 chin-ups. But as far as a six pack, if it happens, it happens. But then I'd say to people, I'd be like, you're going to be hungry a lot. And you're probably not going to want to be hungry around your kids. You're probably not going to want to have to cut out booze if you're doing it as part of work.
Yeah.
And then I started being a real personal trainer to real people. And then I started posting content about it. And I think there's a lot of people that missed out normal people when they became personal trainer. They either want elite athletes, or they want to prep people for bodybuilding, or they want to train celebrities, and the normal person got left out.
Yeah, like your Instagram's huge and stuff like that. You must get loads of people DMing you. I mean, it's January, and surely every person like us, we're like, right, that's it now. We've had a heavy Christmas.
Yeah, we're going to get jacked.
New year, new us. We want to get jacked. Like, do you have any advice to anybody who's starting off in January on a fitness journey as such, to try and lose weight and try and just get fit in general?
So one of my favorite sayings is, what gets measured gets improved. And I pulled the Garmin back out. It's like the ultimate sex repellent is this Garmin watch. Like, I call it the puss repellent, right? I wear that near a girl, and she'll think I'm about to do a triathlon. And she'll be, oh God. Nothing against triathletes, although they are they're annoying people, aren't they? Triathletes.
They just make me feel bad about myself.
Yeah, but they always come in. They're like, oh, just got a new bike. You're like, no one asked. They're like, just swam a kilometre. No one asked. So I got the puss repellent on, and I'm tracking my steps, and I'm trying to do 10,000 a day. I'm tracking my food, but I'm not beating myself up. I've had 4 bowls of cereal today, and I'm not going to hit my calories, but I don't care. It's the fact that I'm tracking and I'm making note of things, and whether it's writing it down on a pad, or putting. Some people write down what they've eaten and stick it on the fridge, and then they go to the fridge and they know that when they take something out, they've got to make notes of it. And I think that through December, your frontal lobe in your brain no longer takes into account anything. You're like, I'm gonna drink this, I'm gonna eat this, I'm gonna do this, I masturbate at 7 p.m. It doesn't matter. Like, you're just on autopilot. So for when people come into January and they're here, just take note of things. Have a look at your step count, and then they might get to the end of the day and go, Jesus, I barely moved. Well, go walk to the shop and get a Diet Coke. Walk to one that's 2 miles away. Listen to this podcast, and just get people on top of the numbers. They don't need to obsess about it. But if they can track their calories and just see what they're consuming. And there's a lot of stigma around tracking calories, but it's only negative experiences that you find out about. And I'm sure that you guys, if you ever look at your reviews or you look at your comments, it's never a fair representation of actually how people feel. You'll say, we've got thousands of listeners, but then you'll see the 2 1-star reviews and that'll just take over your mind. And the same happens with calorie tracking. I would say that if a tub of Marmite's out on the side, people walk past it like Marmite, they're like, someone's left it out. But people that hate it, they're like, why? Oh, Marmite, that's disgusting. Oh, that's horrible. So when you say to people to track their calories, that one person who's got obsessive compulsive disorder that ended up in an asylum from tracking their Weetabix, they're the ones that try and ruin it for everyone else.
You kind of remind me of like you're a Gordon Ramsay for the fitness industry. Like if something's on your mind, you just go on Instagram and you say it. I mean, one of the things recently was that Cosmopolitan had a load of female athletes, different shapes and sizes, and then you took exception to the fact that they had an obese, I guess you could say, it was an obese person in the middle of all these photos, and you had a hot take, I suppose, on that.
Yeah, like it's an interesting one. It really has blown up the internet. Like it's gone crazy. I've got about 10,000 followers from it. If you were to look at the comments, you would say James is hated. He's very unpopular with all these people. But these are people that don't even follow me. They're certainly not book buyers. So, I'm not really going to lose. Oh no, someone that never bought my book is moaning about something I put out. But ultimately, through how the post has performed, it's probably my best performing post in 6 months, which goes to show really what people feel. But we're in this very woke year of, you're not being able to say something. And, if I was to get to my mum and dad, who are not in good shape, they've never been to the gym in their life, I go, Mum, is this lady healthy? They go, probably doesn't look very healthy. If I get my nan, what do you think of this? She goes, no, she's a big girl. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is putting this is healthy on that, that to me, not okay. If someone had put on there, this is acceptable, absolutely. This is an empowering woman who helps loads of people through what she does. Absolutely. This is okay by societal standards. Absolutely. And there should, this should never be fat shamed. Yes, I completely agree. But saying this is healthy is not, to me, objectively true. And a lot of the statistics that are used about obesity, when obese people are brought into studies to be used, they rule out people that have already got type 2 diabetes. They rule out people that have already got cardiovascular disease. And a lot of these purported statistics are hugely inaccurate. And people are almost cherry picking their own arguments, and they're using all kinds of ways to try and get their opinion across. And I couldn't see that and go, that's fine. And I had a feeling a lot of people in their gut would have agreed with it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to say what everyone's thinking. And I've put another one out tonight that's really going to last.
But wait, did you feel that that magazine putting it out saying this is healthy would have a bad effect on people? Like that people would see that?
I think it's okay to be obese.
Or what were you thinking?
When I saw it at first, I knew exactly what the Cosmopolitan just looking to rile some feathers. That's what they're looking to do, and they've done exactly that. The editor there knows exactly what they're doing, and the editor does not, I don't think, cares about these women's profiles and what they're about to be subjected to. She has a narrative that she knows the internet is going to explode about, and you've got the number one no-gi grappler in the world sharing that, disagreeing with it, and it's a very polarizing post. And unfortunately, I feel like those women that are in there are almost like victims to the cause, because some of the athletes there, I commend a lot of the athletes, from, I'd say, I can't remember, I think it was 11, 9 of them, absolutely. But 2 of them, I never said anything about their ability to be yoga instructors or anything like that. I was like, objectively speaking, I just don't think you should put this as healthy, because we're currently right in the midst of a worldwide pandemic for COVID-19, where objectively speaking, obesity is a big contributing factor to health complications. Now, I'm not saying that we should be blaming them, but what I'm saying is in this time, we've had 9 months since COVID really started affecting international travel. Where has the leadership from governments to help people get in shape? What about, hey guys, we're going to keep gyms open. We're going to subsidize personal training. We're going to subsidize group classes. Any of you that are obese or at higher risk, we're going to do our best to get you fit, get you healthy, get you losing weight. What we ask from you is that you don't visit care homes. You don't visit those at high risk. We're going to help with all of these different things. But no one's spoken about that. No one's really taken the ownership. We've got evidence stating that if people are fit and healthy, they have a better chance of surviving this. Yet all we've cared about is segregating people and keeping them apart. And I think it's just a massive disservice to people in general to be, it's not glorifying obesity, but we're trying to, we've spent the last 20 years trying to help these people. Type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset diabetes because it was developed with adults. We've now got kids having this. And it's really one of those things where I feel like in a bid to stay woke and in a bid for people to, cosmopolitans seeing this wave, anti-diet, body positivity, acceptance. And I'm about that. I wear budgie smugglers, and budgie smugglers they do the average rig of the year competition. They don't say be fat. They say show us the most average rig. And they go, if you rock a pair of budgie smugglers, good on you. They say if you can fuck your missus and you can swing an axe, that's good enough to wear budgie smugglers. And that to me is body positivity. But they're not saying, right, let's have an obese physique of the year. And it's one of those things where I've spent nearly a decade trying to help people get in shape, and there are people literally on the edge of giving up. And I've worked with these people so many times, and they're literally coming to you for a last-ditch attempt. They go, James, this is my last attempt to get a grip on my health. And I don't want them to look at that and suddenly sit back and go, oh, do you know what, it's actually all right. And I don't think they really would, but I just wanted to get it out there because my tough love approach won't work with everyone. There's so many people have said, James, you give me the slap in the face I needed. And yeah, it's just something I won't stand for. And even if it meant, when I posted that, I was willing to lose 100,000 followers. I didn't care. To me, the integrity of saying what I believe is more important than pleasing everyone.